Some stories begin with a spark. This one began with a candle, a small trembling flame that refused to die. In a quiet valley where the river curved like a silver thread stood a wooden house with blue shutters. Every night, long after the village had fallen asleep, a light glowed softly in its window. People said the woman who lived there had lost her mind, but those who had looked into her eyes knew better. Her name was Maria Vasili, a woman whose heart had learned the meaning of waiting. 50 years ago, Maria had been a young girl with chestnut hair and laughter like bells. Her father owned a small bakery near the river. The scent of warm bread filled every morning. That was where she met Elias, a traveling painter. He would set his easel near her window, painting the sunrise. Sometimes he'd smile and say, "The light looks kinder here, Maria." In the evenings, they sat by the riverbank. She told him she wanted to travel the world. He told her he wanted to paint it. Before the summer ended, he carved a tiny heart on the wooden bridge and whispered, "If I ever lose my way, I'll follow the scent of your candle." But life, as it often does, changed everything. War crept across the country like a shadow. The men of the village were called to fight, and Elias was among them. The morning he left, Maria placed a candle in her window. "So you can find your way back," she said. He kissed her hands and promised, "When the war ends, I'll come home by the light." Days became months. Months bled into years. Letters came at first, pages smelling faintly of turpentine and hope, but then silence. Still, Maria kept the candle burning. Villagers told her to forget. "No one survives that battlefield," they said. Yet she answered quietly, "He promised, and promises are stronger than death." Every night she trimmed the wick, replaced the wax, and whispered his name. Decades passed. The world changed. Children grew, left, and returned with children of their own. But Maria stayed, alone in the same house, watching the same road. One afternoon, a boy selling newspapers came to her door. "Miss Maria?" he asked shyly. "Why do you keep that candle burning?" She smiled. "Because light must wait for darkness to end." The boy didn't understand, but he never forgot her words. That night, Maria dreamt of the sea, Elias standing on a pier holding a lantern. He looked older, but his eyes were the same. He whispered, "Keep the window open, love. I'm still painting the sunrise." When she woke, her pillow was wet with tears, and the candle's flame was steady, tall, and golden. In the same village, far from her house, an old letter finally surfaced. A schoolteacher found it behind a cabinet in the post office. Yellowed, unopened, the ink almost faded. It was addressed to Maria Vasili, River Street, Blue House window. The teacher brought it to her doorstep the next morning. Maria's hands trembled as she broke the brittle seal. Inside were a few lines written decades ago. "My Maria, if you are reading this, it means I could not return soon. But know that every dawn I paint carries your face in its light. If fate is kind, we will meet by the river once more. Until then, keep the candle burning." Elias Maria pressed the letter to her heart. She whispered, "I knew you'd keep your word." That evening she lit a new candle, brighter, taller, and placed Elias's letter beside it. The wax melted like tears down the glass, but the flame stood strong. In every corner of the world, someone waits. Some wait for love, some for forgiveness, some for a voice that never returns. But Maria waited for light, and in doing so, she became light herself. Morning came slowly, with mist curling over the river like white silk. Maria stood by the window, Elias's letter clutched in her trembling hands. For the first time in years, her heart felt light, as if time itself had paused to listen. The candle still burned, its wax nearly gone, but its flame stood steady, proud. She stepped outside. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and river water. Children were playing near the bridge. They stopped when they saw her. To them, she was the old woman who never left her house, the one who waited for a ghost. But when she smiled, something in her eyes made them quiet. Maria walked to the riverbank where she and Elias once sat. The water shimmered under the morning sun. She could almost see his reflection beside hers. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I kept the light, my love." That evening, as dusk fell, she prepared tea and sat by the window again. The world outside dimmed, and the candlelight painted soft golden circles on the walls. She read the letter once more. The words, though faded, carried his voice, calm, warm, and filled with life. In the silence of that night, a gentle knock came at the door. Startled, she rose slowly, her heart thudding. When she opened it, there was no one, only the wind carrying the faint smell of turpentine and wet earth. On the doorstep lay a small wooden box, old and weathered. Inside, wrapped in cloth, was a tiny painting. It showed a bridge over a river, the same bridge where Elias had carved the heart. The sky in the painting glowed with a single bright star, and in the window of a small house by the river, a candle burned. Maria's tears fell freely. She touched the painting gently and whispered, "You never forgot." Days turned into weeks. She hung the painting above her bed. Every night before sleep, she looked at it, whispering a small prayer of thanks. One evening, as rain tapped gently on the glass, she heard the church bell ring far away. The sound echoed through the valley. Maria closed her eyes. Her breath slowed. For the first time in 50 years, she felt no loneliness, only peace. The candle burned until dawn. When the sun rose, villagers noticed the flame had gone out, but the light in the room still glowed faintly, as if refusing to leave. When they entered her house later that morning, they found her seated by the window, hands folded, a soft smile on her lips. The letter from Elias rested beside her, and the candle had melted completely. Only a small pool of wax remained, shaped like a heart. The villagers buried her beside the river near the old bridge. On her gravestone they carved the words she had once spoken, "Light must wait for darkness to end." Years passed. The house by the river stood empty, but every night travelers swore they saw a faint golden light shining in the window, like a candle that refused to die. And somewhere, beyond time and distance, a painter and a woman finally walked together under the same sunrise, their hands entwined, their promise kept. Seasons changed. The river froze and melted, the trees shed their leaves and grew new ones, and life continued around the little blue house. Yet something about the place felt different now, softer, calmer, almost sacred. Children who once whispered stories about the strange old woman now spoke her name with quiet respect. They would stop by the bridge on their way home from school, looking at the house where the candle had burned for half a century. Even though no one lived there anymore, some evenings a faint golden glow still appeared in the window. One winter night, a young couple arrived in the village. They were travelers, searching for a place to rest. The innkeeper told them that all rooms were full, but suggested the old blue house by the river. "It's empty," he said, "but the key still hangs by the door." The couple hesitated, but curiosity won. They crossed the wooden bridge, hearing the creak of old planks beneath their boots. The moon reflected in the quiet water. The air smelled of pine and frost. When they reached the house, they found the key exactly where the innkeeper had said. Inside, the room was cold but untouched. Dust shimmered in the moonlight, and on the table lay an old painting, a bridge, a candle, and a river that seemed alive even on canvas. The woman in the couple touched the painting and whispered, "It feels warm." Her husband smiled. "Maybe it's the memory of love," he said softly. They decided to stay for the night. He lit a candle from his backpack and placed it on the window. As the flame grew, it cast long shadows across the room, dancing on the walls like echoes of the past. In the middle of the night, the woman woke up. She thought she heard footsteps near the door. When she looked up, she saw a figure, faint, almost transparent, standing by the window. It was a woman with long silver hair, her face peaceful, her eyes full of light. The woman did not speak. She simply looked at the candle, then at the sleeping couple, and smiled, a gentle, grateful smile, before fading into the dim glow. The traveler's wife sat frozen, unsure if it was a dream. But when she looked at the candle, the flame had changed. It burned brighter, steadier, almost alive. The next morning, the couple left the house. They didn't tell anyone what they had seen, but they left the candle burning in the window. Weeks later, the innkeeper passed by the house and noticed the light. He entered to blow it out, but when he touched the wax, it wasn't hot. It was cold, like glass. Yet the flame still burned, motionless and clear. That night, the whole village saw it, a golden glow shining from the old blue house, even though no candle could burn that long. People gathered by the river whispering prayers, their faces bathed in soft light. Some said it was Maria's spirit keeping her promise. Others said it was Elias's love, finally returned. Whatever it was, the candle never went out again. Over time, the village became known for the light that never died. Pilgrims came from faraway places to see it. Some brought candles of their own, lighting them by the river before returning home. They called it the Flame of Promise. And somewhere beyond the veil of the world, Maria and Elias walked hand in hand through endless dawn, their souls finally free, their promise fulfilled. Years passed. The world beyond the valley changed, but the village by the river remained timeless. Travelers still came, drawn by the story of the candle that never died. Some came seeking miracles, others searching for meaning, and a few came simply to stand in silence and feel the warmth of something they could not explain. One of them was a young writer named Daniel. He had lost his way in life, too many dreams, too many failures, and no faith left in love. When he heard the legend of the eternal candle, he decided to visit the village, hoping the story might help him write again. He arrived on a foggy morning. The river glistened like liquid glass, and the bridge creaked softly under his steps. The blue house looked older now, half covered with ivy, yet the window still glowed faintly, as if it remembered every soul that ever looked upon it. Daniel entered quietly. The air smelled of wax and rain. The old painting of the bridge still hung on the wall, and beneath it stood a simple wooden table with a candle burning steadily. He sat down and watched the flame. Its light moved gently, breathing like a living thing. Hours passed. The silence around him grew deep, comforting, almost sacred. And then, from somewhere within that silence, he heard a whisper, faint, like a memory carried by wind. Love never ends, it only changes form. He looked around, but no one was there. The candle flickered once and then burned higher, as if answering. Daniel took out his notebook and began to write. Words flowed without thought, about Maria, about Elias, about promises kept across lifetimes. When he finished, tears blurred the ink. He closed the notebook and whispered, "Thank you." That night he stayed at the old inn by the river. The innkeeper, now an old man, asked if he had seen the candle. Daniel nodded. "Yes," he said quietly, "and I think it saw me too." The innkeeper smiled. "Then you've understood it," he said. "The light isn't in the house. It's in those who still believe." Before leaving the next morning, Daniel placed a new candle by the window of the blue house. The flame caught instantly, steady and golden. Then he walked away, the dawn spreading over the hills like a promise reborn. Years later, Daniel's book, The Candle by the Window, was published. It carried the story of Maria and Elias, of love that waited beyond time. Readers across the world cried, smiled, and whispered prayers they didn't know they remembered. and every copy of that book ended with a single line: "Somewhere, a light is still burning, not in wax or flame, but in the hearts of those who keep faith alive." In the village by the river, the blue house still stands. On quiet nights, when the world sleeps and the stars are clear, a soft golden glow appears in the window. Travelers say it's the same flame that began long ago, burning with the promise of a love that never died. And if you listen closely, you might hear a whisper through the night air. Two voices, gentle and eternal. The light waits for darkness to end. Thank you for listening to Velora Voices, where stories never fade and emotions find their echo. If this story touched your heart, let your light never fade. Subscribe for more tales that live forever. Velora Voices,